just want to say Skugugnik, Kamdu, which means greetings in the language of the Atham here in this area, and Pipash, where we reside. And I want to thank you for that land acknowledgement here tonight. I also want to thank Sabina here for asking me if I can come and speak tonight. You know, I've known Sabina, it's been just a friendship first that I've known her, and she just kind of talked about what she was doing, and I see where it's gone to. It's just a blessing of how you've impacted and how to, just hearing the youth, the stories, that the passion that you have, and I like the one that I was talking about, hope. And that's what I want to do here, is I want to talk to you tonight a little bit about hope, and not only that, as a foundation. I want to share some prominent things that happened in history here in Native American tribes for a while, and I'm going to put them together first. You know, as a tribal leader here from my tribe, we've always think ahead of 7 generations. We've always put our children ahead. We always tell them that education's important. And that's one of the things as a tribal leader, we're always telling our young people. You know, there was a song that I remember my grandmother, she would sing, it would say, "Go my son and get an education." She would sing that song to me. You know, and I think about that song today, and I'll share that with you again afterwards, is that here on June 2nd, 1924, the United States Congress enacted the Indian Citizenship Act, which granted citizens to allow Native Americans born in the U.S. the right to vote. But later it says, however, that was governed by the state law. So even though we became citizens of this United States, we still weren't granted the right to vote, when you think about that. But a little bit later on down, there was 2 men by the name of Peter Porter and Rudolph Johnson, who were Atham, who tried to go and register to vote, but they were denied because they were told that they were awarded the federal system. Both were Pima Indians. And later, down in history, there was a man by the name of Harry Austin and Frank Harrison of the Fort McDowell. They were both working at this time and seeing the need that their people needed, and they knew that as they contacted a congressman, a little goes down that says that they were denied as well to be able to vote, because they looked at some of the needs that they needed in their community, which was from healthcare to social. And later it says that they filed a suit with the help of the Indian rights. Later, going down 24 years later from that, it says in July 15th, 1948, the Supreme Court overruled and given all Arizona natives the right to vote. 24 years later. And when I look at that time of 1924, that was almost 100 years ago. And you think that's a long time, but I've known some elders that are in their late 90s, and that was just not too long ago when you really think about that. And so tonight, as you pursue this education, you're not only doing this, but there's a foundation that's underneath all of you. Right behind me, there's a mountain back here that they call A Mountain. It's very special to the Atham here. There's stories about these mountains that are around this whole valley here that we recognize when there was areas that they were going to. So that's a foundation to us as a people. But later I'm going to read something here. It was a privilege for me to sit back here with some friends of mine that I'm going to say from the Hopi tribe. My grandfather was from the Hopi tribe, and I always feel good when I ever get to meet some people from Hopi and I get to talk to them, because that's another side that I still need to meet. And so I was doing some research. Let me share a story with you. It's a little sad, but I'm not trying to bring this down, because like I said, I'm going to bring things together. It says in 1887, the government established Kings Canyon's boarding school in the modern-day Arizona, and they pressured all Native American parents from the Hopi tribe to enroll their children. Hopi families that complied with the government's order and sent their children to these schools were deemed friendlies, while those who refused were branded hostiles. When most parents refused to part with their children voluntarily, the government restored to force, sending soldiers to round up children and sending them to Kings Canyon. And you know, I was talking to a family member of mine, and they were telling me at that time when that happened, a lot of what happened was the men, they gathered these children at the time because they didn't want them to be taken. And because as us as natives, we always think of our kids, we want to protect them. And so what they were telling me is at that time they hid them in the cracks, I'm saying, in the canyon for these people to come and take them. But what happened is because they couldn't find the children, if I'm accurate, is that they took a lot of the few of the men and they took them to Alcatraz because they wanted to give them the children. And so that's a story that happened, and sometimes we don't hear those things in history today. And another story of a man named Dr. Carlos Montezuma, who was a Yavapai Apache. A young man in the early 20th century, he was kidnapped by raiders at a young age, sold to traders, where he eventually went on to be the first Native American doctor at the Chicago Medical College in 1889. And these are his quotes. He insisted that educated Native Americans like himself must serve as an example of what Native Americans were capable of achieving when they're given the opportunity. And I say this tonight because there's opportunity. All those things, they sound sad, but Dr. Carlos Montezuma actually, he came on and he helped instill the Native American rights. And when the two gentlemen from Fort McDowell went to go vote, when they put that appeal to go and vote again, it was said it was because of some of his work. Despite all the circumstances and things he went through and the education that he received, he was able to advocate for not only his people, but the entire, all what we call Indian country today. And so I encourage you today, all of you here, and I hear the stories, there's going to be some obstacles. And I was looking at the email, and when I got an email from Sabina, it said, at the bottom it said, defy the norm. And I looked at that, it's like she's challenging someone. Defy, when you look at that word, it's just a challenge. And I challenge you here tonight that you're going to come up with some challenges, some obstacles in life. But all these things that I wanted to share with you tonight, these are some obstacles that happened in your ancestors' lives. Those are your foundations, and you look at that, and as you move forward, you got much to be proud of. And I tell you that here tonight because it's easy for me up here to say that, say to go to school. Well, I had to make a challenge myself years ago. And as Autumn people, sometimes we don't like to talk about ourselves. But I'll share this with you. I'm going to say, was it 20 years ago? My daughter's back there with me. She'll probably say it's not that long ago. But some years ago when I was in high school, I wasn't the guy you see here today. And I decided to, I don't need school anymore. I dropped out into the 11th grade. A choice that I thought was going to be good for me. And as you heard her reading my accreditation and things like that, that's not me. That's not who I was at that time. So when I dropped out of school, I began to find work. And I thought, I can do this on myself. But little did I know I was going to start a family. And I couldn't support them on that income that I was getting. And it was a program that the casino had at that time called Pathways to Success. And I said, what is this? And they told me, we have a program for community members that if you come in, we'll get you your GED. And I said, I don't know if I can get my GED. So I went and lo and behold, I graduated. And they partnered with Rio Salado College at that time. And they said, we're going to have the graduation in downtown Phoenix at the Orpheum Theater, which I went to. And at this time of that graduation, there was a woman with me. She was 80 years old. And they let her speak to those in attendance, and she says, you have no excuse tonight. Anybody in here that says you're too old to go back to school? And she talked to me on the side, and she said, because she heard me saying, I'm too old to go back to even do anything about it. She goes, Michael, you need to go back to school. I said, okay. And then You know, I think it's all God's planning, because of years later, my tribe has a higher education department, and they started to partner with Grand Canyon University, so they're gonna do a cohort. So I got a call, they said, we're gonna do a cohort. And it was like, what's a cohort? I didn't even know what that was. I said, just sign up. Well, the higher education instructor knew my wife. He goes, I'm gonna call your wife. He called my wife, he goes, I'm gonna wait here after 5 till you get here. So he waited, they signed me up, went through the program, and I got my bachelor's degree. I got my bachelor's degree, then he called me and said, we're doing another program. And then I got my master's degree. I want you to know that there's hope. You know, I could have beat myself up and said all these things in the past, just like some of these things I read, but you know, you gotta move forward. And today I want to challenge myself, because as a tribal leader, sometimes we tell our young people to go and get your education, go do this. But I wanted to lead by example, so one of the things I want to challenge myself is that I'm going to pursue my PhD. And I said, I don't know what I'm stepping into. But right now I'm about 20 credits, about 24 credits left to finish my completion. And it's been a journey, I'll tell you, but you know, it's possible. And I want you to know that I'm proud of you guys here. I'm proud of every single one of you. And Sabina, I thank you for the friendship, the partnership, all of you that are here. You don't know what you're doing to these young people. You're setting an example for them, but also the tribes that you represent here. You're bringing light to them too, to the future. You know, they say, what's the guy's name? Steve Jobs and those guys said something, but one of these days we're going to have a Native American that's going to be doing these technology things and selling them, and it's going to have a logo there. Maybe one of you guys, so that I'm so proud of you here tonight. I just wanted to share that with you all tonight. I'm so proud of you. You make me feel good when I see this, because again, you bring hope. So thank you, and God bless you all here tonight.